guys, it's Jazz. So this week was pop-up for the NTA group. So I've picked up this comic book strip stamping plate, and I'm going to show you two different stamping techniques that you can use to create different designs. So I've got this one. Both of these plates are MoYou London. This one is the urban style, and I only did one nail with this. These are kind of your more traditional pop art, I guess, with your bangs and pals and wows and things. But when I think of pop art, I tend to think of kind of like Andy Warhol and some of the things that he did, and quite a lot of some of his work was like illustrations of women, or like this type of thing, and it started in the 1950s, I believe, so there's a little bit of history there for you. What I've done is I've got a white tip here with 2 layers of white, and I've just used Nailchemy's Saltstone. I am now cleansing my stamping plate with acetone and just a lint-free wipe. This is just a technique that I was told by some other techs, and it works really well for me. So yeah, as I said, I've got 2 layers of Saltstone on my nail tip, and I am just using some cheap stamping gel polish off of Amazon that came with some other plates. So what I've done is I've just popped a layer on, and I'm now using my scraper to scrape it off. And this is just your normal stamping technique. So I'm just using a clear jelly stamper, picking up the image. Stamping has kind of been a real issue for me until recently, and it's just kind of clicked, and I absolutely love it. So I've picked up the image. I'm just taking another lint-free wipe. As you can see, they're all pretty messy now. And I just clean around the edges of the design, just to kind of get rid of any of the other design that's on there. We don't want that transferring onto our white tip, especially as it's white. The grey will be a lot harder to remove. Now, because these are stamping gels, you could pop them straight on the tip and then cure, but I like to cure just for a couple of seconds. It kind of makes sure the image isn't going to smudge when you pop it down on your tip. So this is just in the lamp curing. I think I cure this for around 10 seconds or so. So I pick it out of the lamp, and then as you can see through the top, this is why the clear jelly ones are brilliant, because you can see where you're placing it. And I just lay it down and gently come off. Now, the guy's hair and part of his top does stick out a little bit, but you can just go back through and press it down without any issues. So this is what it looks like currently. Now, I am going to matte top coat this, because when I think of comic books and pop art, I think most things are like matte, I guess, and I did have my other half sat here pointing that out to me as well. So I do matte top coat him, and I'm just using the Nailchemy Velvet Matte, but you can see what it'll look like shiny before I cure it anyway, so you could absolutely leave it shiny if you wanted to. You could even colour it in once it was on the nail if you want, but I just think this one was such a pretty one that it just looked nice being left how it was. So that's what it would look like shiny, and I'm just going to pop them into cure. Now I give this a full 30-second cure, but I have sped the video up slightly just so you're not waiting around for absolutely ages. And the next technique I'll show you is one that I popped a previous video up on as well, and it's quite cool. So this is what it looks like matte, and I'm just going to pop this with the other ones, and then we will dive right into the next technique. So I've cleaned the stamping plate off, and I've just put a reasonable layer pretty much all over the plate of the stamping gel, and I'm just going to clean my scraper off again. This stuff gets pretty messy, hence why there's tissue down, and my hands are a little bit messy as well. But I'm just going to take the scraper, I scrape along, and I do tend to scrape down. I always forget that with stamping gel you really don't need that much, and I did go a little bit OTT, so I'm just scraping as much of the excess off as I can so we can pick up a nice image. Yeah, I did go a little bit wild with the gel here, but it's all trial and error. Do what works for you. So I've got my stamper again, just picking the image up, and voila. So this is what it looks like. As you can see, from where there was a little bit too much of the gel on there, and from where I then scraped off slightly too much in certain places, the hair is a little bit sparse. So I'm just, like I did with the previous one, I do have a little bit of cleanser on my lint-free wipe, and I'm just running it around. But you can see I managed to pick up the other one perfectly fine. So I'm just going to go around cleaning all the edges up, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my fine liner brush and I'm going to dip into some of that grey, and I'm going to fill in that little sparse bit of hair just because I want a nice even image. So I'm just going to go around filling in these tiny little gaps. There's not many, it is literally just the main one in her hair. And then I'm going to cure that in the lamp. I give this one around a 20-second cure, I think, just because we're going to be painting over the top of this and we don't want our base image to smudge. So I'm about to pop a layer of base coat over. You could also do top coat, but I found base coat works because it's quite sticky still. It makes it easier transferring it across to the nail. So I'm just putting a layer of base coat all over where the design is. I'm not going out of lines this time. You'll see on the, if you search for my name, a previous video will pop up of what I did for some stamping plates that I was gifted. But I'm just doing base coat this time just over the image because I want it to roll onto the tip without having to trim too many edges off. So I've popped the base coat over the stamper, and I've popped that in my lamp for a full 30-second cure. Please excuse the state of my palette here, it is well used, but just some of the colours I'm using are Pawpaw. I've also used Witch Hazel on another design. I am also going to go in with Divine, and then I have my skin colour here is a mixture of Carnation, which is a Nailchemy colour, with Saltstone, which is the white. So here's Carnation, it's quite a pale pink, and I do pop a tiny bit of Toxic Tonic, which is the yellow, in the pink, just to kind of give it like a yellowish undertone. So the base coat's cured. I'm now taking my fine liner and I'm going in with Divine on her lips. Now I recommend you do these finer details first because you can then put your skin colour over the whole top of the design and it actually kind of makes the lips pop a little bit more. So I'm just going to mix a little bit of Pawpaw and my white to create her teardrop. Now I didn't want it too blue, but also I didn't want it too white, so you just pop it on like that. And then I'd recommend that you give this a flash cure at this point, just to kind of lock all of that in place. Because I've been doing this technique for a little while now, I'm just going to go in and colour in her mobile phone. Oh, it's not a mobile phone, is it? Back then I'm not sure if they even had mobile phones. I'm just going to go in and colour in her telephone. So I'm just using Divine because when I think of these telephones, I always imagine them the ones where you have to stick your finger in the hole and then spin it round and let it wait to come back before you can pop the next number in. So when I look at them, I always think, or when I think of them, I always think they're red. So I'm going in with red. So this is just Divine again. And I'm just filling in any of those gaps. And then I'm going to clean my brush off and I'm going to go in and fill in the cord. Now I'm just going to use black for the cord. It probably would be red to match the foam. However, I didn't want it to be red overload. So I'm just going to go in with black and fill that in carefully. And then once you're happy, pop it in your lamp to cure. I just gave this a flash cure. I think this was in for about 10 seconds because we are then going to pop a colour over the top and do a full cure. So this is where your skin colour comes in handy because you don't have to fill in anything else on the design. We can go over the top of the face and any of the bits that we missed just now. So this is what it looks like so far when it comes out, and we're going to just take our skin colour. We mix quite a lot of this. When you pop it straight on, it looks white, but I can assure you, as you can see on the palette, it's not. So we're literally just going to go directly over her eyes and over her mouth, and just going round the hair and the phone. And we can do this because the base design is cured, and also we have flash cured our colour in place, so it's not going to budge, but it just kind of makes the colours pop underneath as well. So I'm just going to fill in her hand and that part of her arm, again with the skin colour. Doesn't matter too much if you go over a little bit. Do try and stay within the lines if you can though. And I'm just going to fill in her other arm. I do leave her speech bubble blank, just because it is going over a white tip, so you know that will kind of act like the white bit of the speech bubble. I'm just filling in her other hand now. And you can kind of see what it looks like by looking at it underneath, so you can keep going in to check. And then I decided that there wasn't enough colour on there for me, so I'm going to take Paw and I'm just going to fill in her shirt. There's not much there, but just the little bit of extra blue kind of pulls it together. You could absolutely colour in over the dots if you wanted to, however I've kept them blank. So I'm now going to put this into cure for a full 30 seconds, just to kind of make sure everything is completely cured for when we pop it on our nail tip. So I've got my tip ready. This is come out the lamp, and this is what it looks like. It is still a little bit tacky, which is what we want. I clearly can't put this on straight. I was trying to get it in the camera shot for you and get it on there, and it just failed miserably at going on straight. But as you can see, you can just literally roll it on, and from where the base coat and the gels were still slightly sticky, it just literally picks it up and places it directly on there. So I'm just going to go in and gently press it down, and then I'm just going to use matte top coat to go over the top and seal it in. Now I will do 2 layers of matte top coat just to make sure that there aren't any raised edges. Like I did in the previous video on this stamping technique, you can go in and buff and file it if you wanted to, but this is what it looks like once it's been cured. And I'm just going to now show you all of the designs together. So this is how they look together. As you can see, I've done another one that's been filled in, and I've also done a boom. But yeah, let me know if you guys have any questions. I hope you liked this week's video, and I'll see you next week.